second.
This is the BAM Podcast with Malcolm Springer.
Roy Ward, good to have you here, man.
Malcolm, thanks, man. Good to see you.
So, man, I've been wanting to get you on here, and it's funny because Greg Johnson from back home, he's like, you got to get Roy Ward on your freaking podcast because we are the Bigfoot, aliens, and music podcast, and you're all about the Bigfoot and music, that's for sure.
It's been my nickname all my life, bro.
What, Bigfoot?
Yes, Sasquatch and Bigfoot. Yeah.
It's so funny. Trenton over there, the second engineer we're using tomorrow to cut drums and stuff. I told him, I said, don't be surprised. I said, this guy used to play, he played Bigfoot in some movies. So you know, you don't be surprised when he walks in the door, he looks like a Bigfoot. He's laughing. He's like, oh, I'm glad you warned me. Like, you know, yeah. No, man, tell everybody like where you're from. You're a fellow Missourian.
Yeah, I was raised in Poplar Bluff and live up there at the lake at Wapapilla, and raised a family, run a business for 3 decades, and started doing a little acting, and broke my back on a movie set in Kansas City, and slowed down and just enjoying life now, man. So
how many Bigfoot movies have you been in?
Just the one.
Just the one?
Yeah, Interviewing Monsters and Bigfoot with Tom Green and Les Stroud.
Wow, it's so crazy. Now, how was it work with Les Stroud?
You know, he was really reserved. Really? You know, when he was there, he was all business. And the last time that we did retakes or outtakes, right, you know, he had to come back, kind of like overdubs in our business, you know, with the recording. Right. And he had to come back and do retakes. And we had our, what they call the wrap party, where we're wrapped up, now let's party. You know,
I got you.
So during the wrap party, he come back and did some retakes. Well, we had our band set up. Just some guys just threw some stuff on the patio there, and he come and jammed a couple songs with us.
Really?
And played my Washburn, the one that Jameson set up for me last week.
Yeah.
And jammed some what was it? We did like Johnny Be Good and Can't You See and just some old standards, man.
No kidding, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he'd nod his head, and we cut some heads, you know, a little bit. And,
wow, that's really great.
Then he shook hands, took some pictures, and went back on, and he filmed till like 4 a.m, hopped on a plane and flew back to Canada.
Well, just for everybody out there, Roy here is in a band called Hickory Smoke, and I'm doing some tracks on them. We're trying to complete a record. It's been a booger because, I mean, you guys living all the way over there.
It has been a learning curve for me.
And playing a lot of gigs and stuff, and the record's sounding great, though. It really is. I mean, you know, it's the player, the producer, the whole process that really makes it. And it's funny because there's some things, you know, that I don't want to let go, that you do want to let go. And then some things, you know, you don't want to let go that I want to let go. And it's kind of, there's no record that you've ever made, to me, I'm saying from my experience, that's ever been easy.
Right. Well, that's how you build relationships, man, you know?
Yeah, it's always a struggle. And it's like, you know, there's the vision and then there's, you know, the producer trying to, you know, help with the vision because, you know, that's what you want to do. And, you know, I appreciate you guys coming over. I appreciate you doing this podcast.
We appreciate you having us, man. I mean,
so let me ask you something. How did you get into okay, let me back up here. So Stacy Brown, he was the director, right?
No.
Oh, I thought that you and Stacy had done a movie before.
No, Stacy was a part of the cast.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
We were at a place called Paradise Cove, and that's at Mine Lamont, Missouri. Mine Lamont was where they discovered lead during the Spanish-American War.
Oh, okay.
And it's a 44-acre site that where they mined lead. So we had a wedding reception there, and I'm standing there on break, and this guy comes up to me. He goes, "How tall are you?" And I said, "I don't know. On a good day, about 6'5". He goes, "Perfect." And I had my biker vest on that said Sasquatch, you know, one of my riding group vests. And he said, "Have you ever thought about getting into acting?" And I said, "Well, yeah, kind of, but I didn't really know how to go about doing it. You know, always was very interesting." And he goes, "Well, my name's John Fahey. I'm the producer for this movie. And our Bigfoot's just not working out.
That's all.
He said, would you be interested in being our Bigfoot? And I go, well, and he goes, wait a minute now. We can't pay you, but you're going to meet some real cool people and get to hang out with some real good people, and we'll feed you. Well, hell, they had me at Feed Me.
Right.
So
Right.
I go, sure. And before it was over, I was building sets and blowing up vans with tannerite and stunt man shit, just
Right.
back at guys. And that's just what
That's
we
awesome.
did, man.
That's awesome.
Right there in the hills of Missouri. See, Farmington and Fredericktown, there at the lead mine, there's a place called Doe Run. And then there's Paradise Cove, which is the offsets. There's a 1 mile cavern underground where they mined lead during the Spanish-American War. This general went in and he killed all the Indians, took over the lead mine, run them all out, run what was left out, run out. And Jacques Cousteau come and cabled that back in the 70s and dove that damn thing. And it's a mile down in that granite. And that sets right on the edge of the St. Francis Mountains where there was a volcano. There's an ancient volcano there in the St.
What?
Francis Mountains. Yes.
That's. I mean, I'm from Missouri. I didn't know that.
Absolutely. It's right on the edge of Tom Suck Mountain, which is the St. Francis Mountains.
So
One of the oldest mountain ranges in the world.
how? Okay. I'm trying to get my geographic right here. So that's not over by Wapapella though. That's over by Van Buren, isn't it?
No, it's South St. Louis.
Okay.
South of Arnold, between Arnold and Cherokee Pass.
Okay.
You remember the Trail of Tears,
Yes, sir.
where the government marched the Indians and they
Yep,
had the
yes, sir.
flag? And okay, it's between there and St. Louis and Arnold.
So yeah, Cape. It runs through Cape. Trail of Tears run through Cape.
It does, but the main leg goes through
Okay.
Cherokee Pass, Williamsville, back toward the Oregon Trail, back west toward Reynolds County and stuff like that.
How? Man, I know this is off the subject, but I'm just wanting to know how far down does the Trail of Tears go? Does it go to the Smoky Mountains? Does it come down this far?
From what I've researched, I think it goes to Oklahoma,
Okay. So
See-
it goes across Missouri.
across Missouri into Oklahoma. I had some kinfolk that married Cherokee women,
Right.
and the hierarchical ancestors frowned on that really bad.
I bet.
And when my great-great-great-grandfather died, nobody helped bury him. And it was in the middle of the winter, and he goes, you married those Cherokees, you had them Cherokees help bury him. And it took 3 days to dig his grave, and after that, it was really, really frowned upon the minorities back in those days. And a lot of those guys that were my kinfolk went to Oklahoma to the reservation, don't even know their names, don't even know how to track them or anything, and that was all from the Trail of Tears and that shit that happened between 1780 and, say, 1849, the gold rush.
I'm sorry.
So
So I want to. Wow. I mean, have you ever thought about doing the DNA thing? I mean, they may do that too.
I have.
You already
And
do that.
there's a National Cherokee Registry that you can find that out.
But maybe that's what I'll get you for Christmas. Because I'm serious. You need to do that. My brother did. That's why I haven't done it. So I know there wasn't any bleeps on the radar for us. You know, we already knew all the bleeps. But I'm sure there's a lot of those people who hadn't. There are probably people who haven't done the test. You know, but if you got relatives that's done it or close relatives, that's anyway, it'll come up on the radar that you're kin to them, which is kind of weird, isn't it?
Well, our family come from North Carolina,
Okay.
and they migrated to Dresden, Tennessee. Well, Isaac had passed away, and his son came to check on the property in Dresden. Well, there was 7 or 9 kids all came together, and they took care of the business, whatever they had to do there, and got the will and everything straightened out. And then they came to Missouri. They crossed the river, and what they called their New Madrid and Lilburn.
Right.
Half of them went into Missouri, half of them went into Arkansas, and they were all sawyers and carpenters. And what they did, they built clinics, schools, they raised courthouses, they built churches.
Wow.
And after I finally became who I thought I was going to be and decided what I was going to do for a living, I opened a remodeling company and started building houses. And I had no idea that the connection from the ancestors.
Isn't that something? It's crazy.
It just appeared in oh, okay, that I get it now. That's what I was supposed to do.
Right. That's crazy.
And I didn't even know that 30 years ago when I started learning the trade.
But you had a family of musicians though, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Dad was a guitar playing truck driver, and Mom sang in church. And,
wow.
You know, they'd go trucking all week long and come in, and they'd be all peeled up from the road, and everybody get together and drink and barbecue and kind of unwind, and that's how I learned to play all them old Julie Lewis songs and stuff, you know, when I was a kid.
That's crazy.
You know?
I had a great-grandfather that played piano. That's where I got mine from. That's on my mom's side.
Right on.
But, man, I want to talk to you about Bigfoot for a second. I want to ask you something, and I'm being very serious now. I mean, you've known each other a little bit now. I mean, are you a firm believer?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
there's not a doubt in my mind.
There's not a doubt in my mind
Not
either.
a doubt in my mind.
Do you?
And the reason I say this, I am a freak when it comes to trivia and learning new stuff. We discover as a people, the scientist community discovers between 1,500 and 1,800 new species every year, and have ever since they've been keeping track of it. That's 1,500 species. That's what, 130 a month, maybe? Third grade math.
Right.
You know, that's a new species every 4 or 5 days, or 4 or 5 every day that they're discovering, and you can't tell me that something that elusive. The food's there, the environment's there.
The food's there, food supply's there.
Billions and billions and billions of acres to hide.
Yep.
They don't need us. You know, those encryptids, they've been here for millions of years.
Well, it's funny. Remember I sent you that on the DNA test that they've been doing for the last 5 years? You know, somebody asked me what magazine that was from. You know, all I can say is that do you think like I do that they're trying to keep the Bigfoot hid because of the lumber industry? Because you know what's going to happen when they come out with the species. It's an endangered species, so we have to preserve their habitat.
Oh, it's going to cripple it.
It would kill the lumber industry, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. And people don't understand that's why does the government want something like that secret?
Same reason they want the UFO secret.
Right. Because
public panic, and it proves that they've been lying to us all these years.
Right.
You know,
and
2 main reasons.
It just blows me away. There are people that we're trying to get a hold of that lady that put that article out. We emailed her. I think Jackson emailed her. Stacey Brown's not too big of a fan of hers.
I'm just trying to process.
Do you think that Bigfoot is just a primate, or not a primate, but a two-legged creature that walks on 2 legs like us, and it's just?
I think he's the forgotten link. That's what I think.
So you believe in evolution?
To an extent, I do.
Okay, same way I am.
To an extent, I do, but the only reason I say that is because of the DNA proof. There is no registered DNA anywhere on the planet that compares to the stuff that you sent me in that file.
Right.
It's not there.
And you know we've had it for a while. And you know that they've known for a while. And you know that they're going to say whoever's coming up with it's a hoax, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's what, you know. But I see where you're saying, though, the panic. The panic, I can see that. I can see where people would not want to be out in the woods as much, especially in the public parks. that all those people come missing and do. And,
That's the next thing I started to say. There are certain areas, in the Pacific Northwest is one of them, to where
there's a lot of people come up.
People come up and go.
And I went to one of those places, and I'm gonna tell you, I went up there to hunt him, and it just, I didn't feel anything until at night. One night we were walking, and it was, about 36 miles north of Darrington, but we had hiked in 7 miles that day, and then came back and it about killed me. But we were walking that night, but we were strapped down pretty hard. I mean, that's the thing. If Bigfoot is as smart as I think he is, they can probably see a lot better at night than we can.
Oh, absolutely.
And they can smell, and they can sense things a lot more than we can. They know when we're in their territory, and they know when.
Well, you're not going to sneak up on them.
No, and if
they're not like a stalk and kill, like a whitetail or an elk or something. No, not at all.
Well, I heard that there was a guy, and I don't know if you've heard of this guy. He went out there toward Darrington, where I'm talking about. It's supposed to be the epicenter for Bigfoot. It's supposed to be more sightings there than anywhere in the world. It's where Monster Quest did their investigation. I don't know if you heard about this, but this guy, he dug a hole, covered himself up, laid there, stayed in there for freaking a long time, and they walked right by him. Even if you've got a gun and you're one man, you're dead. I mean, I know you've told me you've heard some knocks at night. Mm-hmm. You've never seen the Bigfoot, though.
No.
And I like saying the Bigfoot. I think.
Now, back in the crazy days, you know what I'm talking about, the crazy dark days.
Right.
We watched UFOs. We heard noises. We seen lights. Unexplainable stuff.
Now, is that the same? Is that the same thing Preston was talking about? Preston was talking about seeing some lights. I don't know if he was with you back in the day.
I'm going to tell you a story. We had went to the lake, me and my buddy, and we were coming back down the gravel road, and we topped this hill, and this incredible light, just like the sun, come from the left side. And we're headed back toward Poplar Bluff. We're up there by Black River in the caves, south of Keener, between Keener and Poplar Bluff. Keener Caves, where they stored medicine and ammo during the Civil War. And we'll talk about that later sometime too. But this light come from the left, and it's like, what the fuck was that? And I go, Woody, what's over here to my left? He goes, nothing, dude. Nothing but hills and rattlesnakes. And I said, something just shined our truck. He was looking the other way. And we come down over the hill and cross the creek and come up. And it was the size of a damn football field, Malcolm.
That big.
And it had amber lights. And the government uses amber lights on all their experimental crafts. That's what sets them apart. They don't use the red and green and red and white like, boat navigation or normal aviation navigation lights. They use amber. It's an orange light. This son of a bitch was big as a football field. And it was all encircled in hexagons. The whole perimeter was hexagons, and they were all interlocked just like a 6-sided Lego block.
What? Wow.
And about a third of the way across was a turban. And a third of the way across from this side was a turban. And it hovered and watched us. And I told Keith, I said, go in and get your old lady and get a camera, dude. Nobody's going to believe this bullshit. And it is virtually silent. And it hovered over us for, 40, 50 seconds, and then just kind of turned and went west away from the light. The town was over here, and it went kind of due west back toward the Clark National Forest. And this was in 1990.
So Missouri's one of the top UFO. There's a lot of UFO sightings. Now, out there where I'm from,
I swear on my white skin, my mama's grave, it happened.
Oh, I believe you.
It happened.
I believe it. That's what's scary is all the UFO sightings that's not reported. that we don't know about. Did y'all talk to anybody from MUFON or anybody like that? See, that's what gets me, because I know that MUFON don't seem to be that strong here in Tennessee, but now over there in Missouri, man, it's a pretty strong organization because there's a lot of sightings, and I believe it's because of the fault line over there. I believe that they're over there because I believe that's a good place to hide. I mean, the Ozarks is freaking huge. I mean, the Ozarks is hundreds of thousands of acres of nothing but woods.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from Bigfoot to UFOs, and sometimes I discredit myself. Sometimes when I start, because it's both. I don't think that Bigfoot though is an alien, though. Do you?
I really don't.
I don't think so either. I think it's just an animal.
I think he is too.
So have you seen any more UFOs up there? Now Preston was telling me, or maybe that was Nick. I can't remember, but about these lights that they saw, and they said that they there's a lot of that stuff going on out there at Poplar Bluff, past Poplar Bluff, and that's Crowley's Ridge, right? The Crowley's Ridge there at Dexter.
Yep.
And then it gets into
and Ironton's up at Arcadia Valley.
So what mountain range is Ozarks just the Ozarks, or is it a mountain range?
It's called the Ozark Plateau.
Okay.
And Crowley's Ridge is
beginning?
Runs south. No, it is the beginning going west. But Crowley's Ridge, starts down there around Portageville, down in Arkansas, and goes in a northeasterly, southwesterly direction. And then everything west up to Farmington is the Ozark Plateau, and that encompasses Branson, Lake of the Ozarks, what's that other big lake? Taneycomo, all down into Arkansas. And that's all the Ozarks, man. Billions of acres.
Well, that's what my question is like. Okay, so the Crowley's Ridge is really where the glacier. They know that's where a glacier deposited its stuff, right?
That is where, according to what I've researched, Crowley's Ridge was built during the 1811 and 1812 earthquakes. See, we had 2 years of earthquakes.
Oh God, okay.
And that's when sand blows. The old flatland farmlands, they would actually roll. And what that is the old intercoastal waterways.
Oh, really?
Yes. The Gulf of Mexico used to go to St. Louis, brother, where the Missouri and the Merrimack dump in the damn Mississippi. That was the intercoastal waterways 180 million years ago. The ocean went all the way to St. Louis. That's why bull sharks can survive in the Mississippi now, in brackish waters.
That is so interesting.
Yes.
But that is scary.
It's scary as hell, dude.
Now, are those reportings of the bull sharks, are they real?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But anyway, like I said, during what we call the mountain building process, during the earthquakes of 1811 and 1812 and 1813, there was like 3 years. Most of the majority of them happened during the winter, between November and February. But the Mississippi River used to run right through Mingo Swamp and Lake Wapapillo.
Yep, I've been over Mingo quite a bit.
A book that I read talks about the last disaster. The Mississippi River moved its footprint 55 miles east to its current location. You know where the current location is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Charleston, Wickliffe, Kentucky.
Right.
You know where the Mississippi and the Ohio River join.
It moved 55 miles
East.
Okay, because right there at Portageville, I'm talking about home now. I don't care, but Portageville was named.
There used to be 1,000 foot of water above them flatlands.
Yeah, because the river ran right there. You can see where the levee goes up there in Portageville, right when you get into town. And I always ask my dad about that. And Greg, me and Greg's talked about it, and he showed me where the river bottom was. He's like, right there, Bay Ditch is. That's why it's Bay Ditch, because it used to be a bay. From
the intercoastal waterway.
Yeah, I talk about Greg a lot because he's one of my best friends, and he's a really smart guy, and he knows a lot about that area because he's a hunter. He's a deer hunter. he knows the area because he is a hunter. I mean, a real hunter.
Yeah, he goes after them.
Yeah, he goes after them. He's mad at them.
We've had some talks about them swamp doggies, they call them.
And he's good at it.
Yeah,
he's damn good at it.
He got some ringers hanging on the wall.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, I mean, he showed me like where the river came in there. You know, where our land was out there, where and past JY was here we are talking about home, and I know some people might not be interested in that, but you should be interested in it because how the geography changed.
There's major history there, brother.
And how it changed so fast, like, you know, New Madrid would have been St. Louis. And it would make sense because, honestly, St. Louis is too north than between Memphis and Chicago. It would have been the place that New Madrid would have been St. Louis if that earthquake hadn't happened. I mean, I've had many people say that. And then that's not just that. I mean, when that earthquake happened, people just went, hell, this place.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people died, a lot more than probably what we know because they didn't have any way of knowing back then. You know, I know the town went under and you can see where it went under.
Help wasn't 911 away, brother.
No. And some of the stories I know, which I want to get to that here in a second because I want to talk about that theater over in Poplar Bluff because that was a tornado that did that. Mm-hmm. You know, New Madrid has its hauntings and stuff up there around where the guy, Bill, he a good friend of mine and he helps with the podcast. You know, he's been helping fund the podcast and stuff and Bill Bailey and he lives up there north. But there's some plantation houses. I don't guess they're plantation houses. I shouldn't say that. They're old Civil War, you know, they were built back in the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And they're haunted as hell. And I'm going to tell you that you ought to check out that American Ghost Project. I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, that guy has some stuff I'm telling you, it'll make your skin crawl. Hey, did you find that picture we were talking about earlier about that?
I didn't look.
Okay.
I didn't look.
I wanted to get that. But anyway, back to what else. We're all over the place here. But
if I find it, I'll email it to Jackson.
Okay.
What it was. You want me to just take off with it?
Yeah, take off with it, man.
There was a tornado that leveled downtown Poplar Bluff in, I believe it was May of 1927. And all the downtown area was basically, you know, pine, oak, timbered buildings covered in veneered in brick. And they had a brick kiln there. Anyway, it was early 1900s architecture. The tornado hit and killed 88 people within a 10-block radius that we know of. And there was a little field there, right there at Pine Street, just right next to the Black River. And that's where all the kids used to play. Well, in 48, 49, 50, they built a theater there. Okay. Run forever. You know, I think AMC bought it and retired it, I don't know, 20 years ago or so. Anyway, they still have productions there and they lease it out. People will come and rent and do the plays there and stuff, or the school will do projects, or they'll have a special showing at Christmas. Well, my buddy Craig Metter was in charge of sound and light production. He said, Roy, man, I got so much going on. Would you be interested in taking over the sound and light production for the theater? I go, sure, man. I don't got nothing to do, you know, other than, you know, play a little music on the weekends. Yeah, when I'm not working, I'll do it. So we're down there, and he's showing me all the stuff, and we got all the gear turned on, you know, and we kept hearing these noises down in the basement. It's like, what the hell is that noise? He goes, well, just don't pay no attention to it. And we talked a little more, and we played a little bit of audio and shut it off, and then there was some really serious banging. I go, what the hell is that, Craig? He goes, I just want to let you know, don't freak out, but we're not alone, brother. I go, what do you mean we're not alone? He said, well, I guess that I might as well tell you now because they've showed themselves in front of you, so they are comfortable with you. I go, are you talking spirits, brother? Then he shows me this picture. And if I can find it, Jackson, I'll send it to you. There was a Christmas show. They had this on the screen. And Craig had taken a couple of pictures of the movie on the screen. To the left of that screen is a church lady dressed in black choir drab with a hat on, looking, casting a shadow on the screen, and there was no light source coming from that shadow.
What? That's crazy.
It's crazy. And he didn't see this till the next day. He was just taking pictures, random pictures of what it looked like from different positions in the theater because it was their first movie. And that choir lady appeared in that picture. I'll send that to Jackson. Maybe he can slot that in during the editing. But anyway, I went down and I go, well, I'm going to just go see. So I went down and there's this 9-foot grand piano that's been there for 75 years.
What kind is it?
I have no idea. I got a picture of it too. But I sat down and I started playing some old ragtime stuff, Scott Joplin kind of stuff. Stuff that I was playing in the cave today,
Right.
stuff like that. And I felt the temperature around me drop. It got cold around me. It's like, what the hell's going on? And Craig had went up to the balcony and took some pictures of me playing. And there is a long, rod-like, 3-foot cylindrical apparition above my head, about 4 foot, directly above me. No light source. It's not like a light shining, casting a shadow or smoke or anything. It was just that apparition. And that explained why I was so cold. So after seeing that and then seeing the picture of the choir lady, it's like, dude, what do you think it is? And I go, the tornado. 88 people died within 10 blocks of this damn field where they came and built a theater. How do we know it's not the grave sites that this theater is built on?
Or as far as that goes, there were bodies that wasn't found.
Or bodies that wasn't found.
Or covered up. You know how it was. Back in the day. Back in the day, it wasn't as big a deal.
Yeah.
Yep. Cousin Jimmy got freaking blown away by the tornado. We don't know where he's at. And they just mowed him over, you know. Man, I don't know. Has Scott and those guys from American Ghost Project, have they been over there, Jackson? Man, you need to meet my buddy Scott. Man, I'm serious.
We had Midwest Paranormal come over.
Okay.
About 6 months later. Excuse me. They set up lasers. You know, that's how they track that shit, right?
Right.
With lasers. A spirit and apparition will actually make that laser wave. Did you know that? From the energy.
Wow.
Yes. We got video of doors opening and closing by themselves. We've got orbs. I was playing with this one lady. It was an all-black production. I was the only white guy there.
Right.
At the end of it, I got down on the grand piano and I go, sis, you want to do some freestyle? She goes, yeah, I'll do some freestyle with you. So I started jamming some freestyle on the piano. And she starts just freestyling, just, you know, the operatic stuff,
Right.
you know. And we've got orbs on video flying around us while we're singing that. At the same piano in the theater.
So Roy, none of that scares you at all?
Don't scare me at all because you know why? They're comfortable with me.
Man.
It doesn't, I mean, let me back up. It scared the shit out of me the first time. Okay. Because we had some people come. Yeah, they'll come. So we waited about an hour. This was another time we brought the paranormal team in.
Right.
No show. So there was 4 or 5 people that were kind of skeptics, per se.
Right.
They left, and everybody's leaving. I go back in to shut the light off. Guess what happens? Temperature falls around me. And just as I grabbed the switch, the temperature fell. And I go, okay, I know you're here. Right. And I know why you're here now. I'm sorry I brought them, and I apologize to those spirits. I'm sorry I brought them, but I had no way to tell them no, they brought them. And then I went back out, and I brought the team back in, and we got orbs. We got EMP registrations on the devices and all that. The next 10 minutes after those non-believers left, I swear on my white skin, brother, that's the way it went down.
But they were believers now.
No, we didn't tell them shit. We didn't tell them nothing. Wow. Wasn't none of their business.
Wow.
Because they made those spirits that were friendly to me and accepting me, they made those spirits feel uncomfortable. It was not my place to tell them. So that became mine and the spirit's secret.
I mean, we've had stuff happen here at the studio, and I know I've told you about some of them. And matter of fact, Nick had something happen to him.
Yes.
And his wife saw somebody standing behind him one night, but he would be here by himself. And it's you know, I'm not at all. I gotta say, there's been some nights that I've walked through the kitchen into that lounge. And when Kyle wasn't over there, Kyle Odell, when he moved in, everything kind of got a little better because still stuff happened,
right? But
not like it was before when I was here by myself, living here by myself. Because I lived in the studio here now I lived here for 3 years by myself. I told Tiffany I needed time with God and I needed time with myself, and I wanted to focus on music for a while so I could really do good for my family,
Right.
that I had with her, and it worked out. It worked out. It was just there was some nights though that I fell asleep on her here that she didn't like it. She heard somebody walking upstairs and stuff, because we have it upstairs here, and I always thought it was freaking squirrels got in or something. I thought, but no, that's not what it was at all. I mean, but there's it just blows me away though. Now, is this theater though over there? What's it called again?
The Rogers Theater.
And what year was that built?
I want to say between 49 and 51, somewhere in there.
So it is old.
It is old.
It's around 70 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
Used to, when we were growing up, Roy, it didn't seem like a building was that old, being 70 years old. Now it seems like, I don't know.
When we were kids, it wasn't 70.
No,
it
what
was
I'm saying,
built in 50, I remember going there in the mid-70s.
But there was places, though, that that was built over there. Like, the Hunter Dawson home was built back in the Civil War, though. It was 100 years old. So that thing's freaking really old now. And there in Madrid. Have you been to a Hunter Dawson home?
No.
I mean, it's some of those are my relatives, It's something to see and something to feel. It has a vibe about it when you drive by it. There ain't no doubt about it. I mean, it's got, but the Civil War, there was a lot of battle, I guess, in New Madrid or whatever.
There was some unspoken things happened down there, brother. But
it seems like, though, that Roy, across the river like that, I know the reason why the Mizzou Tigers are called the Mizzou Tigers. Did you know why? Because during the Civil War, when the North came down to Missouri to invade Missouri, I guess you'd say, the Confederate Army that was there, they said they fought like tigers, and that's how Mizzou got the Missouri Tiger name.
Oh, but damn.
Yeah, I found that out because I was always wondering why Mizzou Tigers, and it's because of that.
Well, I know that one general, he burned a bunch of towns. He burned Donovan.
Did he get over there? What was that guy's name?
I can't remember. My buddy Michael Bubba know.
Oh man, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
You remember Michael?
Oh yeah,
from school.
Heck yeah.
He's a Civil War freak, dude. He's like a professor. He knows all that stuff.
Hang on, what was his
dates
name?
And everything.
Hang on, it was oh man.
That's how Highway 67 became the old military highway, because they marched prisoners right down that damn thing.
Really?
Yes, that's how it became the military highway.
God,
And that the same thing with the Trail of Tears in the 1880s after the Civil War.
isn't it amazing how Americans did that to Americans? That blows my mind.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to say anything that would turn anybody off. I'm just saying,
It's a lack of compassion, dude.
well,
What else can you say?
it seems like men could sit down and they could talk about things and work things out. And hey, man, let's our best man fight your best man, and let's spare all these men, and let's see who the hell wins, and then whoever the hell wins wins.
It was
the war.
too hardcore. It was too hardcore. The King James type of hardcore, you know.
So I know Jackson is tired of hearing this. I think it's the fourth time I brought this up on the podcast. Did I show you that map of the missing persons versus the caves?
Yes,
And is that
It is,
scary?
yeah.
Is that not scary?
it is.
Do you think there's that many empty caverns that run under the United States that,
Oh, absolutely, I do.
and they probably come out places we don't know?
Well, you know, those caverns were basically aquifers. You know what an aquifer is?
Oh,
It's a underwater river.
oh, got you.
Aquifer. And as the water table drops, remember when we was kids? Remember them wet spots that used to be wet? We'd go out there and drag crawdads and stuff.
Yeah.
You go out there today, they ain't wet anymore. The water table has fallen
Lowered.
over the years, and I'm talking. I'm 60. You're what? 49.
52.
52.
Thank you,
That's
though.
all. That's all changed. That's all changed. You know, just like the water. We were talking about the. We have been all over the map, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
We have. But like the intercoastal waterways, all that water has receded back down to the Gulf of Mexico. That's what, 350, 400 miles?
I thought these guys said the icebergs was melting in his raisin. I'm just making a joke. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that it seems to me like it's lowering to me.
It is lower.
You know, I don't know what that means geographically. What's happening? You know, as far as the geology of the planet. What's going on?
My question is, if we are,
Is that the right word there, Jackson? Oh, I just want to make sure. I'm messing around.
my question is, if our planet is a unit with only so much moisture, where does the moisture go if it doesn't go through the ozone and be lost in space? Shouldn't we have the exact same amount of water now or 100 years later if we are an encapsulated entity?
Well, I mean, from what I've read, the human body has the exact same percentage of water as the Earth has in it, and or has on it in it, whatever what they're estimating. You know that it's the same percentage. My question is that, you know, is that what drives people crazy when the moon is full? The tides go up, the tides go down. So does the human. Temper and breaking your biological, you know, your hormones and stuff go crazy.
I personally think that the tides don't have nothing to do with the magnetic field. You take a bottle of water and you twist it, what happens? It goes over there. So as the Earth rotates, the water rotates.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's my take on it.
Right.
Even though we're still, you know, in gravity, even though water has gravity, everything with weight and mass has gravity, but you roll that, it's going to change.
So you don't think the moon is making the tides bulge out? Really?
No.
The reason why I do is because that explains the long distance. Like there's places on the ocean and the Pacific Ocean, from what I understand, now this is what may be bullshit that I read, but I'm pretty sure it's Science Magazine. I always read stupid shit like that because I'm just a fucking dork, you know.
No, me too.
But But the bulge of the planet when the moon rotates or whatever, that's why you can see so far, because the ocean is actually, the water is actually higher than the land. It's pulling it so hard from the ocean that the water is actually higher in elevation than the land that you're seeing way off.
Right.
And that explains why when people say flat Earth, that's why they can see so far. For freaking like 150, 200 miles, they can see the lights of freaking LA from almost out to Hawaii because of the freaking that pull from the moon. Depends on where the moon's at, though.
Well, water also refracts light.
That's true. So it's like a mirage in a way. That's a good point too, man.
Yeah.
I guess my whole thing is like, could you see St. Louis or Kansas City's lights from Mile High Stadium in Denver if you had the right telescope?
Oh, I believe so, yeah.
Because the Earth is...
It's only 400 miles.
The Earth is freaking huge, man. It's like people think that it's supposed to curve like this. The curve is it's so freaking long. I mean, it's a long ways, Roy. I mean, that's why I can't wrap my head around the whole flat Earth thing. But you know, I wanted to ask you, do you think? Okay, let's go back to this spaceship that you saw real quick, okay? Because I'm trying to get some good shorts in here on this freaking thing. There's some good ones with you, man. I can tell you. Do you think these beings are? Do you think they live here? Do you think they're here? Or do you think they actually come in through a wormhole and they visit and they leave? I have a couple of different ones, so I mean, I'm not sure.
I never really thought about it, but so I don't care. You know, I quit 2 weeks ago.
I know you're a bigger man than me, and I'm gonna quit because of you.
Tomorrow, I'm gonna polish your ashtray, and I'm gonna sit up there in front of your desk. And you know, if you put a cigarette out in there, that's like saying, "Oh man," you know.
I promised Fever Slip, this next band, that I wouldn't quit before they got here, because they, the Jordan, one of the guitar players that we become buddies over the phone and talk a lot about recording and stuff.
Is that the dude that was talking to you earlier?
Yeah,
Right.
Such a good dude, man, and we see music the same way.
He sounds country too.
Well, he's actually from Austin.
Well, that's...
He's actually originally from Austin. He lives in New Hampshire now, But anyway, I told him, because he smokes, and I said, well, man, I'm going to keep smoking through first year until we're done with your record. I think we'll be done with the record before then, but I don't want to scare them and them see the podcast. What do you mean till the first year? I think we'll be done in melody.
Well, you're getting quicker,
I am getting quicker.
You are getting quicker.
We're going to be writing a lot of songs. I'm hoping you guys come back and write some songs with me, and I think we do the right thing, Roy. I mean, anyway, we're getting off on freaking music.
Been all over the map, brother.
I know. I think it's good today, though. I think it's good. We haven't focused on too much, but the whole point is we're focusing on Roy today. But do you think that these beings, because there's somebody flying the spacecrafts, okay, and they're not our spacecrafts, obviously by the videos that the military come out with. Obviously, the sightings, what I saw when I was a kid, what you've seen.
I've been watching these things for 50 years, brother. We used to go and chase them down the damn corn rows, when I was 8, 10 years old, riding around with the older kids from high school. Let's go chase some lights, So, yeah.
Well, now,
getting back to your deal, do I think they live here?
Yep.
I would be afraid to make that assumption, only because I would fear that I would be wrong. That's something that I would have to think about for a while. But we know that there are portals, like the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
We know there are things that are unexplainable with magnetism and EMP phenomenon and stuff like that. So who's to say that they don't live here? Who's to say they don't live in a craft just like the space station?
And they can cloak themselves.
Oh, yeah. You know about the forward infrared camouflage, right?
No, huh?
They've got they've got forward imaging camouflage now.
Oh yeah.
Whatever is
Something like that.
behind you, it projects. Everything is pixelated. All your armor, all your trucks, your clothes, everything is pixelated.
Hey Jackson, can you crack the door, baby? Please. I just don't want Roy to get smoked out here. So, if we have that already,
We've had that 20 years.
thank you, baby. Old Jackson.
Yeah,
I love him.
he's a good.
He is a good one, man. So you know they have it, but see, that's what I saw. It okay, maybe close the door.
Yeah,
Man, got a big old pump.
we can hear your porn, Jackson. You need to.
Sorry, man.
That's all right.
You know, hey, so I guess what I'm asking is, you know, and
I've seen stuff on like forensic files and stuff like that about, the planes that dive into the ocean, and go into these underwater portals and go into a city, and dock, and which is, that's the Jetson stuff. You know what I mean?
I know.
And who's to say that we've been lied to for 50 years? Who knows? We don't know.
Well,
All we can do is
it
speculate.
seems like the Cape Girardeau crash is when Cape Girardeau, Missouri was the beginning of it, and
Do you know about that?
I know a little bit about it.
Okay. It is either Donald Trump's dad or grandfather was in charge of the CIA
Yeah.
or that specific investigation,
Right.
took control of all the evidence. They sent something to, I think it was Yale University, and had it reversed engineered. You know what it was?
What's that?
The transistor.
Really? Okay, so that makes sense.
It was either the transistor or the resistor.
Okay. Because it seems like nothing really came up, like the op amp, or what you call microprocessor. Seems like it didn't come up till like the 60s. And they were big because they couldn't.
They were the size of like airplane hangars.
Right.
Yep.
But and then they got smaller, smaller. After Roswell, it really, really had a deal. No matter what, man, Roswell happened, and it wasn't a balloon, and it wasn't some. But man, they just tell us anything, don't they? And they expect us to believe it. It's almost like the news now.
That Cape Girardeau thing. There was a preacher that gave last rites to a alien.
Huffman, Pastor Huffman.
Yes.
And I grew up on, it wasn't, they gave us a county line, our county highway, 315, but it runs from Huffman and it runs out there. So I lived on, I guess you would say, Old Huffman Road.
In Cape?
No, in Portersville, outside Portersville, between Portersville and New Madrid. I mean, you're from the hills, well, I'm from the country.
Right.
But your family derived in Lilburn.
Lilburn Catron.
Lilburn, Catron, that's where I'm from. Right there at Catron. I mean, I'm about maybe 3 miles from Catron, and it's nothing but just right there by the little
Down
river.
the flood rate and little river, right?
You cross floodways and keep on going. And I'm down about, I was down about a mile from there. Yeah, about a mile from there. And all that land over there, my grandfather owned all that at one time. And my family did. And I grew up out there. And
See, I never got a chance to do that. We moved to Poplar Bluff, to the subdivision,
really,
and I was robbed of that, go out and get the eggs and throw dirt clods at the cats, and I never did get to do any of that, man.
I have to say that there was some of my childhood was hell, but most of it was like a dreamland. I mean, I was fortunate, and grandparents had money, and they did good for themselves. They definitely wasn't wealthy. Because I say wealthy is a never-ending freaking thing, but they were wealthy in a way of family,
Right.
and that was what I was taught. Taught. I wish that some of my other family members had learned that, but anyway, I was fortunate to grow up out there, and man, it was a good life. Now that I'm in a city, and man, every day is traffic getting to work. Or some days, Roy, I just I get up at 6 a.m. just so I don't have to deal with traffic, and that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to ask you, do you think this whole moon race that's going on? Do you think we made it to the moon? Do you think we landed on the moon to begin with? I'm just curious.
I did for years, but now, after you think about it, did we really?
I believe we did.
I think we did too. There's one thing that bothers me. Why is the logistics so hard now?
That's what I haven't had time to look on.
When in '68 and '69, it was just like within a year, racing the Russians. We put that together in a year and supposedly got it done.
I think it's the same reason. I think this is going to make a good one. I believe it's the same reason why it's harder to make a hit record right now. Because humans overthink things. That's what I love about your record. We haven't overthought things. I mean, maybe a couple things we may have, but for the majority, the record, man, blow and go, and we're recording artists. We're making, and I think that's how it was back then with NASA. I think they were like, okay, doesn't matter. We're not looking at radiation. We're not looking at putting a hole in the ozone. We're not looking at, we know how much fuel it's going to take us to get there according to our satellites that we put up there. And we know what's going to protect the astronauts when they come back alive, and everything else, we're going to the moon.
Yeah.
But now you got all these people, younger people, that are overthinking everything. Well, what's going to cause us to have less radiation? How are we going to land? How are we going to take off? And back then, man, I just hate to say it, but men were more men, I think, and they had more balls. And I think that Neil Armstrong had the bigger balls out of all of them.
Well, how in the hell did they know that they wasn't going to land in the Painted Desert or in the Andes Mountains when they went off in that capsule?
Because they had tested it so many times, and Apollo,
even though there was 60% or 70% of the Earth was water,
right?
What
was it? Apollo 11 that landed, right? So there was 11 before that. Apollo 10 circled it or went to the dark side of the moon. I think Apollo 9, I can't remember. Apollo 13 never landed. They went on the other side, but they came home. They slingshotted to get home, and they barely made it back. And that, have you seen that movie? Tom Hanks is in it. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's my problems with some of the things that they tell us, and I don't think is completely the truth. Like the angle you have to hit to get back into the atmosphere. I think there's a much bigger angle than what they're saying, and I think they're finding that out now. I think that from what I can see, the reason why it's so much harder logistically to get back there is simply because we're just thinking about all these things that we didn't think about before. We didn't think about comfort. We didn't think about anything like that. We didn't think about entertainment on the way there.
Failure or anything, yeah.
No, but we were on our way to beat the Russians to get up there. They had beat us in every way. We had already sent around a man to go that shot up there. What was his name? The first one Oh no, that was the guy who died. It was he was the guy who first made a trip around the Earth. You know, he's the one who first. Can you look up who that was? He was the guy that first got up there and went around the Earth. We shot monkeys up there. We shot dogs up there. We were prepared, you know, and we had a nation.
The Russians, I think, were the first one with the monkey.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
But we were a nation of workers. We were a nation of proud people who did not want to get beat. What's that? Hey, man.
Is that Farmer?
I'm talking about the one that that's our farmer. I call him Farmer. I love it. I told him, I said, man, I told old Trent, I said, we got a farmer coming over playing drums tomorrow, but man, he'll kick your ass. He's like, all right. Who was it, the first guy that circled in the United States?
Said it was a Russian.
Well, for the United States, it was Gus Grissom, right?
I don't know.
What's that? John Boyant? John Glenn, that's right.
John
That's right.
Glenn, really?
Yeah, and John Glenn's the one who has been on, who has talked about, before he died, he talked about the inhabitants of the moon by aliens, and he knew that they were there, and some of that stuff. But anyway, we going on. We can talk freaking for 2 or 3 hours. I know we got to get over there and get some drums set up and get at it. But no, Roy, I sure thank you for coming.
Well, I'm glad you had me.
Man, this
And
ain't,
we're going to have a part 2.
I know. You
There's
got to
no
come
way.
over. You got to come over. And you know what we might do is, maybe we'll do it next week when you're here while I'm mixing, just because that way we can save it for December and stuff like that, and we can find all kinds of stuff to talk about. Because, I mean, it's so funny to hear people's views on it, especially musicians, artists that are so creative. I have found out from my experience that mostly artists really do think deeply about this kind of stuff. I know it sounds ridiculous.
Whether anybody gives a shit about our opinion or not, we still have views.
I think people want to hear people's views, and I think someone like you is a great guy to have on here. And Greg Johnson told me, he said, you got to do one with him because he's going to be able to really do a great podcast, and it's been awesome. We better get to work, though, over there, do our thing. I get Jackson working on getting the tracks ready. And, man, thank you so much.
Well,
Roy.
thanks
I
for
sure
having me,
appreciate
brother.
it, man.
I had a good time, man.
So